Good afternoon, folks. I suppose it's time for an update on where things stand with my Wingnut Wings Rumpler C4 that I'm putting together for the Reconnaissance group build hosted by Joachim and Marcus. Last time I presented the project status, I had made what can only be called a right holy mess of the camouflage painting, especially on the fuselage. Things had not gone well, and maybe that was 80% my fault and 20% the paint's fault. I think the paint had a little bit to do with it, but certainly more of it had to do with some of my issues with technique, especially masking. So I want to report on what I've done. All of this was salvageable. I was probably mostly frustrated because I knew I was going to have to do some redos and a lot of extra work, especially around the area of masking, which is not something I enjoy doing. So here's a recap. But before I get to the fuselage, which is where the problems were, because I hadn't had problems with the wings, what I had done so far, which was the sky blue undersides, I said, time to finish up something else. So I've been working on the prop, and what I've done there is an undercoat of Vallejo ochre or yellow ochre, and then afterwards I've been brushed in oil paint, Abteilung 502 ochre, and I think that's going to work out really well. I'm going to let all of that dry, maybe add a little of a gloss veneer, and then I will be painting in the contrasting wood grain with Abteilung 502 burnt umber, or maybe burnt umber paint. It takes quite a while because oil paint takes a while to dry, but that's progressing. Now, I did get in and basically sanded off the bulk of the offending paint, the offending mauve and dark green, and did that with some fine grain wet sanding, and then went in and applied another couple coats of Tamiya extra fine gray primer to get everything uniform again. In other words, basically starting over with the fuselage, except for the bottom paneling, which has been finished with the sky blue over the primer. Okay, we're all letting that then rest for a while, and we'll be going back. I will not be going back with AK acrylic World War I German fighter set. I'm going to be using the Tamiya paints now. Tamiya on Tamiya works a whole lot better for me, and I know it's proven. Probably should have done that in the first place, but I didn't. So the camouflaging with dark green, light green, and mauve will proceed with the Tamiya alcohol acrylic paints, the XF series. However, what I could do before, and I've got some of those paints, of course, coming via Amazon. I have a whole lot more masking to do. Yeah, ribs for the top sides of the wings. And before I show that, just a little quiz for folks who are familiar with Tamiya tape, masking tape, 1mm tape. What do you think is the surface to which Tamiya masking tape best adheres? Styrene? Cork? Wood? Of course not. The surface that Tamiya masking tape, especially the thinner, the more it applies, the surface that it really adheres to easily, tightly, sometimes confoundingly, is, of course, human flesh. I don't know if I'll ever get that strip off. Actually, I applied that to make a point. But it is just amazing how easily these little strips will bind to your finger or your hand. Maybe not so much when you're trying to apply it, but believe me, when you're trying to take it off. Okay, another story. All by way of story saying, yeah, I spend a fair amount of time carefully applying many strips. Well, basically about 20 strips, 20 long strips, and 17 to 18 tiny little intervening strips on right wing, right upper wing, right lower wing, left lower wing, left upper wing. Everything's in place now. That's a lot of tape. Well, maybe not a lot of tape, a lot of strips. And what'll happen next, probably not today, is I will be doing a spray of diluted smoke, Tamiya smoke, over each of those strips, which will create an overspray on each side. I will let that all dry. If I want it to be a little more pronounced, I might try it with black, but I think I'm going to go with the smoke. And after which, by then my Tamiya shades will have arrived. And I've actually got to mix the mauve paint. It's a combo of Tamiya Flat Earth, I think, and Violet. But the dark green and the light green are single mixes. So that will then go on. And then, of course, we'll get back to the major project, which will be the fuselage. By then, I think I will have shown the patience necessary to do the proper masking to get those contrasting soft swirl. Well, I'll call it swirls, not swirls, but alternating, contrasting sections on the rest of the plane. Yeah, it takes a long time. After I get all of that done, there'll be some assembly, of course, but that's a ways off in the future. I've got a lot of the small component sub-assemblies done. The engine is done. The pilot, the observer are done. Yes, the machine guns are done. So a lot of other things have been completed, but we'll be going in after we get these major paint sessions worked out. And hopefully, second time around, we'll be a little more successful now that I've thought it through and decided to switch paints. Thanks for watching.